David was leaving a UPS store in Long Beach and needed to make a U-turn in the road's center turn lane. A vehicle he hadn't seen before came speeding up the lane behind him, slamming on the brakes and skidding to a stop. David swerved right to give the other vehicle room to stop without hitting him, missing his opportunity to turn in the process. The other driver, now enraged, passed David in the oncoming lane, then brake checked him. With nowhere to go, David was forced to rear-end the other vehicle. The other driver then got out and began acting as though this was David's fault. Eventually, the other driver admitted to brake checking David and causing the accident, but only after claiming that David had cut him off. Insurance is currently handling the claim, and David's front bumper cover will need to be replaced. Fortunately, nobody was injured. Oddly enough, it seems like the accident actually helped fix the other guy's car. Neither of his brake lights worked when he brake checked David, but after the collision, one of them started working again. Watch what Tony witnessed while taking his family to his parents' house. A flatbed hauling a boat took a corner too fast, swinging the boat into a vehicle and onto the pavement. Tony pulled over to block traffic and check on the victim. She was fine, but the driver of a second flatbed that had been following the first kept yelling at Tony to go away, even though he was staying well clear of the accident. The woman was fine, but the same can't be said for the boat. The flatbed driver dragged it half a block and into a parking lot before getting it back on the truck. Here comes another close call from our friend Mohammed in Saudi Arabia. Luckily, the horn was enough to prevent a collision in this case. Phew! I wonder why he has those door protectors. Paul was driving his Mustang Mach-E in Michigan when he was rear-ended by a Ford Explorer. Nothing like a little Ford-on-Ford violence. Paul was required to appear in court over this accident, and when he did, the other guy never showed up. The judge ruled in Paul's favor, and the Explorer driver had his license suspended. Paul thinks there's more to the story, but I guess we'll never know. This submitter was driving down a road with a lane in each direction and a center turn lane in the middle. Check out what he encountered as he rounded a bend in the road. Two cars were racing at about 50 miles per hour on this 30-mile-per-hour road, and one of them, a Crown Victoria, almost lost control and spun out while trying to pass the other. Luckily, no accidents resulted from their recklessness. Alex was driving down a road in Georgia where the speed limit is 45 miles per hour. When another driver pulled out in front of him, he had nowhere to go. Even after slamming on the brakes, Alex's Mustang slid into the other vehicle, causing $15,000 in damage to his car. The other driver said the accident was Alex's fault, but he showed the cops his dashcam footage to prove otherwise. Luckily, Alex has friends who work at a body shop, and they were able to give him a deal on a new paint job. A month and a half later, he had his car back and was already taking it to the drag strip. This submitter was driving a minivan pulling a trailer when a motorcyclist decided to pass him.
Well, that was safe.
Whoa.
Yeah.
The biker wasn't wearing a helmet, and worse than risking his own safety, his overtake forced oncoming traffic off the road to avoid a head-on collision, risking the safety of innocent people as well. Elliot was driving at 1:30 a.m. on a very rainy morning when his Toyota Corolla began to hydroplane. His car went off the road and into a ditch before finally stopping. Luckily, another motorist following behind him saw what happened and stopped to check on him, then waited with him for 7 hours until a tow truck arrived. His insurance provider eventually replaced his vehicle, but he spent a month and a half driving a rental Toyota 4Runner in the meantime. This submitter admits to speeding about 15 miles per hour over the limit when the car in front of him suddenly stopped, seemingly for no reason. The submitter slammed on the brakes and swerved, but his 22-year-old SUV slid into the back of the car and tapped the rear bumper cover. Both drivers pulled over, but the driver of the car told the submitter it wasn't a big deal and that they could leave. The accident unclipped the rear bumper cover of the car and exchanged some paint between the vehicles, but thankfully, that's about it. Brendan was driving late at night with a friend when he was pulled over for a rather interesting reason. For Halloween, Brendan had closed his trunk on a fake hand, leaving it sticking out as a joke. When some cops saw it, they were not amused. Officers approached Brendan with guns drawn, ordering him to turn off the car. The audio isn't great, but take a listen.
Yeah, that's a Halloween decoration.
Yeah, it's probably not the best idea, right?
Okay, I'll put it back in. Whew. Sorry.
For anybody who couldn't make that out, the cop said, "You guys have a hand hanging out the back trunk." To which Brendan replied, "It's a Halloween decoration." The cop then said, "Probably not the best idea, right?" Brendan tucked the hand back inside the trunk with the rest of the body. Just kidding, there was no body. And the cops sent them on their way. I'll let Brendan's friend leave us with today's lesson.
Alright, note to self, stop hanging that decoration out of your car.
Yeah.
I couldn't have said it more specifically myself. This close call comes to us from New Zealand. An SUV pulled out in front of our submitter. Had they not purchased new tires just 2 days prior, they may not have been able to avoid a collision. 3 days after getting the 2022 Ford Bronco that Alan had been waiting 2 years for, another driver hit him while driving down the highway, then took off and tried to get away. Alan chased him, eventually catching up to him when he had to turn around at a dead end. It looks like he could have kept running, but the guy must have figured out he was going to get caught eventually. Luckily, the car's oversized tires took the hit, and Alan's vehicle had no damage at all. After all that, he decided to let the other guy go. He says the guy was very apologetic after he'd been caught. He also asks, should he have made a report anyway, just to teach the guy a lesson? Comment below and tell us what you think. Zach was driving in Georgia when a driver in a turn lane blocked off with pylons decided she wanted to go straight instead, cutting Zach off and forcing him to slam on the brakes. Zach says he always has close calls here while driving for DoorDash, which explains why he was paying attention. At least somebody was. This submitter was headed home from work when the driver of a work van apparently didn't notice him and started to pull out onto the road. Luckily, the van driver noticed what was happening at about the same time as the submitter did, and they both took evasive measures, preventing a collision. John's Chevy Spark got clipped when a distracted driver didn't notice him stopping until the last second.
Please don't hit me!
The other driver's insurance provider paid for a rental car for John, and they even agreed to pay for his gas since his own car is electric and he doesn't normally have to pay for gas. Arthur, who asked us to pronounce his name Arthur, so don't at me, was driving with his girlfriend down a Mexican highway when another driver pulled out in front of him. He tried to brake and swerve, but the other driver matched his movements, forcing a collision. If that seems suspicious, keep listening. The other vehicle was a rental, and the driver, who'd been making an illegal U-turn where only emergency vehicles are authorized to go, said he hadn't seen Arthur. When law enforcement responded, they found Arthur at fault and asked for a bribe of 4,000 pesos, about $200 to not give Arthur a ticket. He didn't tell us if he paid it or not. Fortunately, his insurance policy covered everything. His car was totaled and he got about $18,000 for it. He'd paid over $26,000 for it just a year earlier, so this seems low to him, but they're both just glad they weren't injured. Lel was taking his wife Judy to the Hello Kitty food truck on a rainy Saturday morning when a car in front of them took an on-ramp too fast and spun out. Fortunately, the anti-lock brakes of Lel's Subaru Legacy did a great job bringing them to a quick stop, and the traffic behind them was able to stop as well. Other than a good scare, everyone involved was fine. Benjamin had installed a dashcam in his mother's car the night before she captured this clip on her way to work. A pickup truck sideswiped an SUV, pushing it into the median barrier before losing a wheel of its own, then continuing down the inside shoulder surrounded by a cloud of smoke. At first, Benjamin's mother thought the pickup driver was attempting to run from the scene, but as it slowed down and she passed it, she recognized that the driver was unconscious. She pulled over and called 911 while others got the driver out of the truck. He regained consciousness at the scene before being taken away in an ambulance. She's a nurse and she thinks they might have had a seizure. The police requested a copy of her dashcam footage for their accident investigation. Fortunately, the driver of the SUV wasn't significantly injured. Miguel was headed home with family when they all witnessed a clueless SUV driver nearly cause an accident on the highway. Miguel says that a little further down the road, they saw the same car getting pulled over by the Colorado State Patrol. Ben was driving along an English country road when he came across a herd of sheep that seemed to think they were just as entitled to use the road as he was. Come on, guys, move it along. That's it. This guy just can't be bothered. Well, while we wait for this swarm of sheep to clear, head over and subscribe to our new channel, Wham Bam Gamer Cam. See you there! Do you have a dashcam video that you want to share with us? Please send the video together with a description of what happened using the link in the description below.